Genre Ayling has posted this essay a couple of times now. Well, that's not why I'm marking it, but it's got aspects of A and A star to it, so I'm going to share it with you. He's looking at the poetry question for AQA. How do poets use language to present feelings in the Manhunt and to his Coy Mistress? So let's have a look at the mark scheme first. Here it is. So if we go to the top of the mark scheme, we see that you've got to be insightful, and in band 5 you've got to be exploratory. So this is one of the annoying things about mark schemes is, for me, when you explore, you compare interpretations, you're trying out different ways of looking at the text, which is much more skillful as an English student than just having some insight. That's having an original idea, but this is actually exploring the original idea and justifying why it's better than another original idea. Now, the reason I point that out is when you look at the mark scheme like that, it's really difficult to say, well, these words fit the essay and these words don't. Or this actually would be the other way around, wouldn't it? Because this is easier. But my point is actually what the examiner is going to do is they're just going to have a gut reaction to a lot of the things in your essay. However, if you are going to evaluate, you have to have more than one interpretation. So that's clear. The reference to writer that comes in suggests to me that you want some of the writer's point of view. So in the poem, why have they created this character? How do they want us as readers to react to that character? And that will be part of how convincing or imaginative your interpretation is. But that's just my gut reaction. So here we go with Genre Ayling's essay. I shall compare the way that Simon Armitage and Andrew Marvell present feelings in The Manhunt and To His Coy Mistress. So there's absolutely no way I'm going to give this candidate an A star, because he's not using capitals for names and for the title of his poems. So I don't care how brilliant his writing is, subconsciously, without even thinking about it, I've already decided he's not a top student, or she is not a top student. That's important. The way you present yourself to the examiner matters. Well, having said that, I'm going to mark the rest, assuming that all the spelling and punctuation and capitalization was correct. So if you got that correct, would I still feel like giving this an A star? Well, the other thing I'd say is you don't need that sentence. This is where your essay could start, right here. To begin with, the titles of each poems convey a strong sense of what may happen. Well, what may happen when? What's that got to do with your question, which is about feelings? So your opening statement isn't linked to the question. So no, I still don't want to give you an A star because you're not thinking like an English student. In The Manhunt, the title suggests that a wife is exploring the body like a game. Well, whose body? Is it a lover's? Is it, are they married? Be as specific as you can. Searching for the man who once harboured the body. Do you mean inhabited that body? So you have to be specific in your language, and you've made a point here, which might be a brilliant one, but you haven't included a quotation, and you must have quotations for each point that you make. This suggests, again, you know that that's a new sentence, which is why you started with a capital, but you've ended with a comma there. So, to be frank, the examiner's pretty pissed off now because you're doing so many things that an expert in English won't do. And every time you do that, it's like a little stab to the examiner, you know, it's just like poking them. It's really going to upset them. They want you to write like an expert. This suggests that her feelings, perhaps of sadness, grew as she continued to search for her real husband. This seems like a really great idea, but again, I'd like a quotation to back that up. This shows me that you're now exploratory because you're going to consider another point of view. If it's about the same poem, It's not about the same poem, it's about To His Coy Mistress, but that shows you're structuring your answer well, going from one poem in the first paragraph to the other one in the next paragraph. The title To His Coy Mistress is a pretense of shyness or modesty, which is intended to be alluring. No, it isn't. Coy is a pretense of shyness or modesty. Really, what you need to explore here is why the poet, or sorry, the speaker in the poem, is calling his mistress coy. What's in it for him to describe her that way? How is he trying to provoke her to be less coy? This is in contrast to the manhunt, as the speaker is female, who is determined to search for the man she feels she lost to war. Good, but where's the quotation? She wants to understand her husband's feelings, and so is searching his body for clues. So we can see I'm not happy all the way through here. I'm going to jump to this paragraph, which seems to be your best one. Significantly, in the manhunt, there are many references to war. The phrase after the first phase has militaristic connotations. Full stop, please. This may be a metaphor for the first stage of their relationship. Good, but if it is a metaphor for their relationship, why is he using militaristic, or why is she using militaristic connotations? What is she saying about the sort of relationship they had? And that would be an exploratory response. So at the minute you're not exploring. Additionally, the metaphor frozen river suggests that the husband, after returning conflict, is now unable to function. Good, but in what way? Remember, the question was about feelings, and so if his feelings are frozen and not functioning, what does that say about what's happened to the relationship? The adjective frozen suggests he is stuck in this military state of mind and so is struggling to perform perhaps everyday tasks. That's good, but it isn't quite linked to feelings, which was in your title. All the military references throughout the poem may be an extended metaphor for a conflict between the two. Good. Let's assume that it is. How is she reacting to that? Does she respond with equal aggression, or is she trying to find a way to find peace, if you like, to stop the conflict? That would be an exploratory response. This makes the reader feel the sense of predicament and tension. Well, yes and no. You haven't really spelt out what the predicament is because you haven't looked at the speaker's point of view. This shows how Simon Armitage conveys feelings, good, you're going back to the words in the title, through the manhunt to be rather mixed, and perhaps shows a sense of unrequited love towards the speaker. So do you mean the husband no longer loves the wife, or the wife loves the husband? Who's unrequited here? This is in contrast to the way that feelings are presented in To His Coy Mistress. In this poem, feelings are presented to some extent through more conventional romantic ideas. Good, you're continually answering the question here, and hopefully you're going to give us a quotation that looks at those romantic ideas. The speaker explains that his vegetable love shall grow. This may be a phallic symbol. Well, that's absolutely true, but it's got nothing to do with the romantic ideas. So you want to explore the romantic ideas here with a different quotation, and then show how he actually attacks those romantic ideas by being deliberately vulgar and suggestive. Alternatively, and when you do that, you tell the examiner that you are being exploratory. It may be the idea that his love shall grow in a natural way, which represents how Andrew Marvell conveys feelings through more natural, arguably more idealistic conventions of love, certainly romantic love. Well, you haven't actually shown how he uses romantic conventions here, in the way that he talks about each part of her in a list, if you like. It's really difficult to say whether this is a romantic poem. I certainly don't read it that way, but you're allowed to, as long as you prove it and put the quotations in. So let's go back to the mark scheme, and let's assume that there were no mistakes in your punctuation and spelling. So are you exploring? Well, you've seen that I've been showing you how it could have been exploratory if you just added a further idea to your points. Do you analyse the language? You do in that big paragraph that we just went through, but not in the others. Do you talk about the structure and form of the poems? You don't actually, do you? You don't make references to structure and form. Are you exploring ideas? You're beginning to. You're definitely comparing. Are your comparisons analytical? Not quite yet. So I'm coming down the band, down to band 4. Are you considered? Do you have details? Do you appreciate the language? Well, probably. Are you thoughtful? Yes, in some places. So I'm giving you a mark in the band 4 somewhere. Hopefully you can see what you'd need to do to get higher. I'm just going to go and flick through the poem now and look for some points about the structure and form, because you must have something in your essay about that in order to qualify. This isn't about structure and form. Okay, but here it is. You started to introduce structure. So I'm confident that you will hit that band 4 that I talked about. Hopefully that hasn't been too disappointing for you, and use it as a learning experience to improve your accuracy and also those techniques that show the examiner you're exploring ideas. Good luck with your revision, and if you'd like more videos, don't forget to subscribe.